Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Doctor Who review, episode number 31. Now, like with the last one, it's a premiere episode for a Doctor. In the case of the last one, it was the season premiere for, I believe it was for like the 16th season show, and I think it was like the 5th season of Tom Baker. Yep. This one, we're going back a few years. As a matter of fact, we're going back about 7 years. No, seriously. 7 years for this Doctor. And we're going back to John Pertwee this time. Yep, John Pertwee. Sweet. Well, we are going to talk about the start of his second year on the show. Yes, second. In the 55th story of the series, we have Doctor Who, Terror of the Autons. Yep, this story is Return of the Autons. And they're pretty much supporting characters in the second story to debut. We have 3 brand spanking new characters make a debut here. One is a long-lasting character who is still part of the franchise very day, and we'll talk about him. A woman named Jo Grant, who's here from this until the end of the 4th season of John Pertwee's run. And Mike Yates. Yep, Mike Yates, who for some reason is dropped from the show after John Pertwee left, comes back for one story, and I think that's it for him. Well, actually, wait, he does come back for his last physical appearance in the series was actually in the 5 Doctors as a hallucination, but it's still the same actor. First up is, let's talk about the Master. This, of course, is the very first actor to play him, the late Roger Delgado, who was here for this entire season, appeared for a handful of episodes of John Pertwee's third year of the show, and appeared for a couple for his 4th year, and then he stopped appearing. Yeah, he appeared a good amount of time in this run. He probably by far appeared more times here than any other Doctor. Now there is a reason for that. Why did he stop appearing after a certain point? Why did this version of the Master stop appearing? Because the actor betrayed him. Roger Delgado, that's the actor's name, got killed in a car crash right after his last non-physical appearance in the series in Turkey, of all places. Yeah, he died back in the 70s. Now, we kind of have the debut of another Time Lord pops up here. Now, the Autons, apparently, this is probably, at the time, like, it'd been a year since his last appearance. And to date, this is the only returning alien who appeared in another story, actually one of 2 who do appear, the only original alien who appears in the John Pertwee era, who does come back one more time, and then never seen again into New Who. Yep. Now, what is the plan of the Autons? Invade Earth. Though with the help of the Master this time. Yep, and this actually is the first of several aliens he manipulated over the years. Or at least he allied with. He's also allied twice with the Cybermen, the Daleks. Surprisingly, he's never worked with the Centaurans. Nope, never have. Or the Rutan. Rutan himself made several mentions over the years, but made one physical appearance in an episode that was the Horror Fang Rock. That one we'll discuss in the future, because that's a quite interesting episode, very infamous episode, and we'll talk about in the future. Now, I've heard this one described as the most violent story of the John Pertwee era. The violence here seems very tamed. Meaning, what's the most violent things happen here? Well, let's see. We have Joe getting suffocated by a film, or the Doctor nearly getting strangled by a telephone wire. A telephone cord. No, seriously. That's the most violent things that happens here. Or, oh, I don't know, how about an inflatable chair that suffocates a guy? All because it's in the way of the Master. He also established he was first alias in the series, Colonel Masters. And by the way, the Doctor's not find about this alias into the final episode. Now, The story basically is the Doctor is normal thing at the research facility, and at this research facility will work with a unit, and then he has a guest, a Time Lord. Who is this Time Lord? Never revealed, because this type of thing happens one at a time in Classic Who, where a Time Lord has appeared out off the planet Gallifrey, with the exception of Romana and the Master, and pops up to give the Doctor a mission or at least information. The only other time this happened in Classic Who was in Genesis Daleks. Yep, that was the only other time this happened. Where a Time Lord is off Gallifrey for a brief period of time and leaves without help of a TARDIS. And the reason why this guy is here? To inform the Doctor the Master on Earth. That's it. That's the only reason why he's here. And he pops away. Yep. Now the Master, his TARDIS, actually, he has on TARDIS, like the Dalek does, except he's never had a definitive look for his TARDIS. But I knew who his TARDIS disappeared. It's never revealed exactly what happened to his TARDIS. Yeah, it's quite strange, the Master. Now, he is technically the second renegade Time Lord to appear in Doctor Who, because there was one who appeared just before him in a couple stories for William Hartnell, the meddling monk. It's been kind of confirmed via BBC that he was, in fact, a Time Lord. Now, as for why in the world he never appeared again after 2 stories, I think his last physical appearance was actually in the Dalek Master Plan, I think it was. And that was it. Basically, the meddling monk, he's basically a prototype Master, except Master is much more memorable than the meddling monk. Now, yes, Roger Delgado at the time basically had gray hair, so I have to follow the Master, follow the actor. How Joe Grant's going to choose is quite interesting. Now, basically, in the previous story, Inferno, which I should review because that's actually a pretty good story, that was noteworthy being the final appearance of Elizabeth Shaw. Yep. Now, pretty much, basically, it's mentioned in story of why she left. She was getting tired of basically being like someone who handles the Doctor's test tubes, and not treated like an actual scientist. Now, as for why in the world basically this was, I don't know. Let's see. What was the reason why that Joe Grant, the actress by Liz Shaw, left? Carolyn Joe. Maybe she became mom? Okay, so the reason why she left the show was because Barry Letts figured it would be too intelligent for the Doctor. She should be too intellectual. So basically, it was a producer idea, not because she quit the show. She basically was let go after 1 season. And I will review at some point her last 2 stories she appeared. I only reviewed the first 2. Her first story, Spirit in Space, one of my personal favorite stories of the Doctor Who, and Doctor Who and the Silurians, which is a really good story. I like that one. But yeah, as for how she was written the show, it feels like a bit disrespectful for the character to reveal, oh yeah, she left because she was tired of basically having old Doctor's test tubes, despite the fact that when I read, apparently she had no problem with the show. It just basically was a producer's idea to let her go. Not her decision. Nope. At least Joe Grant basically is a good character. Now, when I get a chance to talk about the Green Death, that was actually her last appearance of the show. And she made one cameo, a picture in the Colin Baker run, and she did actually return for a episode of the Sarah J. Adventures. Yep, where she's there with her grandson, which I'll talk about more about that at a later point when I talk about the Sarah J. Adventures. I like that show. Really good show that is. So, basically the Master gets his hands on one of the nesting eggs. Now, apparently, Unit has had their hands on this thing for like over a year, and the Brigadier signed off of basically this being held at a museum for some reason. The Master basically put a circus order to get the damn thing, and nothing much is. Now, as for the egg itself, it does briefly pop up again in the final episode of this run. Now, cliffhangers are quite interesting, like, oh, let's have a doctor being strangled by a telephone wire, or let's have Joe Grant basically being sucked by a film. Yeah, the cliffhangers here basically make total sense. Basically, it's a big, humongous near invasion story, this one. Yeah, but there's no people invading. There's suspected invasion, but not really per se. And the thing is, the Autons... Now, here's this thing about the Autons' story. That they actually do a little more fighting in this one than they do in the original one. Now, from what I read, now, the plan was, in that original story, to actually have them pose as mannequins and, well, destroy glass of shop windows. They couldn't do that, so they had them just walk out of a shop. And Rose was no problem. Yeah, no problem breaking glass in that one. Yep. But this, and of course the story does end with Master getting away, but there's a little strange little thing they do introduce this one. This starts a story arc in Doctor Who where the Master is trapped on Earth with the Doctor for an entire season. Until toward the end of the season. And as for on-screen confrontation, this one, they only do this once the entire story, where they actually share the screens together. And I think it's done brilliantly in this episode. An absolute really fun episode, and really not an episode people talk about very much. Yep. I give this classic story of Doctor Who a 10 out of 10. It's a great introduction to Joe Grant. She's very useful per se. She's not as intelligible as Elizabeth Shaw. Now, from what I read, apparently the fans have no problem with the character of Elizabeth Shaw is the producer who didn't like her very much, Barry Letz. Yeah, in the case of Joe Grant, I heard the fans didn't like her very much at the time. That's what I read, anyways. At least I've heard from some people. The fans at the time didn't really care for her. Now, as for the case of replacement, played by the late Elizabeth Sladen, Sarah Jane, people love Sarah Jane. And they say, oh yeah, she had the longest tenure of any companion to date. The only one comes close to that is Tegan. I would probably say that there is a counter to that, where there is Joe Grant. She was also there for 3 full seasons as well. Yep. Yes, she was. 3 full seasons. Yep. Appearing there for, from 1971 to 1973, of course, appearing in that one-off story. Yeah. I mean, first appearing in this very story here, and then leaving pretty much at the end of Season 10. She comes and starts, basically, she's there for could be a little over 2 years. Yeah, mostly anyways. But 3 full seasons. Yep, 3 full seasons of the character. Mm-hmm. And you know the weird thing is about the companions of John Pertwee era? In this episode alone, most of the cast are dead. Yeah, the only one left alive is Joe Grant. I mean, Nicholas Courtney has passed away. Benton is surprisingly still alive. Yeah, he is shockingly still alive. The actor plays Benton. How about the actor plays Mike Yates? Yep, he's still alive. But Doctor, Brigadier, and the Master, they're all dead. Yep. Rex Farrell. Michael Wisher. Oh yeah, the guy who played Deveros. Yeah, he's no longer alive. But yeah, the 3 big players, the Doctor, the Brigadier, and the Master, yeah, these actors are all dead. But the supporting characters, Joe Grant, yeah, Joe Grant is the only regular companion actually still left alive from this era. Because, well, how should I put this? The one who previously, Liz Shaw, who was played by Caroline John, She passed away in 2012. Yeah, roughly 10 years ago. And as for Elizabeth Sladen, she passed away a year prior to that in 2011. Yep, 2011. Yeah. It's quite interesting, though, the fact that she basically was there. And here's the thing about Elizabeth Sladen. By the time she got older, she still looked really good for a woman her age. Heck, even Joe Grant, when she popped up for, like, Kate Manning herself, who, by the way, is 75, who doesn't look that bad for her age. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. But not much to say about this one. It's good. Okay, so that's the particular review. Next one's going to be a Comic Con, and then finally I'll do the Rise and Show Hero. Okay, next video. Bye.